What's up, Herd? Welcome back to the Mav Chatter Podcast, episode number 6. I'm your host, Jim Machieski, Athletic Director at Mauldin High School. Joining me today is class of 1991 Mauldin alum, the voice of Mauldin football, and Mauldin City Councilman, Taft. Taft, thanks so much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Coach. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and get rolling. Talk a little bit about your background, growing up in Mauldin, I should say. What sports did you play growing up, activities, things like that?
Yeah, I'm one of the few that's been here forever. My wife jokes that the only place I've ever really moved was across the hall. We actually live in the house where I grew up, and growing up, I was a soccer kid. I mean, that was one of the biggest programs that Mauldin Rec had at the time, was soccer. Played a little bit of baseball, and then moved into football later. Of course, that was back before you had D team and C team. So you were running, Mauldin Rec was running 13-14 football. And yeah, that's when I made the switch to go from organized sports to debate, because it seemed that my mouth could get me in and out of trouble better than my body could. So ended up switching to that once I got into high school.
Outstanding. Talk a little bit about your experience going to Mauldin. What was that like? What year did you graduate? And what did that experience mean to you? How did it impact you, looking back on it?
Looking back, it was a really great time, and it's class of '91. So, go Mavs, class of '91, and I still keep in close contact with a lot of folks from my class. That's one thing that social media, I think, has allowed us to do is keep that connectivity, and even reestablish connections over the years. But Malden is a very tight knit community, always has been, and it's great that as I grew up and had a family of my own, to watch my son play on the same fields that I played on as a kid, and there was a real source of joy, and a real pride in that.
Outstanding. Skipping ahead a little bit, I mean, talk more about what that experience meant. Watching your kids go through those hallways, play. I mean, that had to be a goosebump type of moment every time you got to experience that.
Well, it was really funny because my son was involved in the high school's athletic program before he was ever a student. He started as a ball boy for varsity football when he was in around the fourth grade, under Coach Taylor, and stayed ball boy until he actually joined the program, and in D team. But I never will forget when I took him to the school for the first time for, I guess it was meet the teacher night, and we're walking the halls, and all of a sudden I look at the end of the hallway and I see Greg Snowd sitting on a desk, and he looks up the hallway at me and he just drops his head. And I just yelled, "Coach, they wanted me to come back. What can I say?" And it is great because it brings back a lot of memories whenever I step foot back in the school. But it's also changed a lot. It's modernized. It's not the same Malden High School that it was in 1991, and that's a good thing, because education has changed, the times have changed, and the way that you as educators have changed and evolved with them to make sure that you're keeping up with the times. So, no, it really is great to watch the school improve.
Going back to running into Coach Snow that night at Meet the Teacher, I guess maybe he's the one. Is there any one teacher that you can look back on at your 4 years at Malden that you can say, man, that person, whether a female, male teacher, really made an impact on you and kind of helped you and guide you to be the person that you are today?
Well, it's funny because with Coach Snowd, I never had him as a teacher, but we would stand in the hallway and go back and forth about politics just for fun. And of course, this is back when you could argue over politics and it not be personal. You know, you're talking about policy. You're not talking about I'm a bad person because I support X party. But he and I are complete opposites when it comes to politics. So it really made it kind of a sport. But I would say some of the teachers who really impacted me. There was a science teacher named Tom Nasser, who is no longer with us. Debbie Barron was my debate coach at the time, and I would say that she really was there when I was trying to figure out who I was. And you know, when you're transitioning into high school, it's a difficult time for a lot of kids, and I was envisioning my life going in a number of different ways, and sometimes things weren't going exactly the way that I would have liked. But she was one of those folks that even when I was getting in my own way, was going to make sure that I stayed the course, that I stayed the path, and that I wasn't going to completely mess things up. And she was a real light. Getting through those years.
Is politics something you always knew from a young age that you wanted to get into, or did it kind of morph into that direction, you know, after those conversations with Coach Snowd over time?
It was one of those early on things. When I was probably 6 years old, a friend's dad was running for mayor, and we went door to door handing out literature. And I think that some parents would bristle at that today. You let your kids go out unattended? Well, yeah, we did. We went door to door and we handed things out.
Right.
And each successive election cycle, I just got more interested, not just in the candidates, but in the policy that they were promoting. So um, it really resonated with me and struck a chord. And if you want to talk about competition, there's no bigger competition than politics in South Carolina. It's a blood sport, and it's it's a lot of fun. But when I got it, when I was in high school, I was in Teenage Republicans, and we volunteered on campaigns. I mean, Knox White's congressional campaign is a real memory for one. But it was no, it was one of those things that I knew I always wanted to be involved with in some way, shape, or form. I didn't know if it was going to be on the campaign side or on the policy side, which is part of my day job. But I knew that I either wanted to work with the people that were making a difference or wanted to be the one that was help making the difference. And fortunately, I actually get to do both.
Let's jump into that a little bit. So, being on the the city council here in Mauldin, what is that experience like? Going, you know, from growing up in Mauldin to going to Mauldin High School. Now, like you said, you're one of those people that get to help shape, you know, policy and the way things are done in our community. What type of impact does that have on you daily, and how does that, I guess, in essence, make you feel?
Well, I'll say, Coach, I did not envision myself running for city council initially. I tried to find people to run, and I was unsuccessful. Um, I talked with my wife one day, and she looked at me and she said, "You have a vision of what you would like to see this city be, and how you would like to see the city move. Why don't you run?" And I said, "Okay, if you're behind it, then I'll do it." And you know, thankfully, we were successful. Actually, defeated an incumbent in that race. And you know, before I was elected, now the mayor at the time wanted to meet me for coffee, and he said, when somebody decides to run, I want to know where their head is. What is it that you hope to do? Where do you want to be? What committees do you want to be on? And I told him, I said, I frankly would like to be on the same committees that the current occupant of that seat sits, because I work with a lot of public safety organizations in my day job. My son is extremely active in Mauldin Rec. So I want to be on the rec committee, and then I want to be able to help shape what comes to Mauldin, and how we lure companies into the city, whether it's for new locations or expansion, because we really need to make sure that the city grows economically. The residential tax base is one thing, but unless you have a strong commercial tax base that elevates that, then all of the tax burden goes on the residents, and we don't want that. There needs to be that even split. Otherwise, that means that homeowners in Mauldin are going to see their taxes drastically increase, and we didn't want that. So he agreed, and I was able to be placed on each of those committees after I got elected. And you know, considering how North Main or Main Street in Malden has not changed aesthetically a lot over the last 40 years, we're now at a point where there is movement, and we have some significant investment that's happening, and we're starting to see those changes that make it so that people want to spend their money in Malden, and we're able to capture that and not have it bleed into other municipalities or in the unincorporated part of the county.
Right, right. Talk a little bit about, I mean, Bridgeway Station being one of them. I don't know the name of it offhand, but where um, Bohemian Bowl and how that place is, that corner of Malden has boomed. What was your role in helping develop those types of areas?
Primarily working with the developers and making sure they had what they needed for their projects to be successful. Whether it's adaptive zoning that we used at Bridgeway Station, because let's be perfectly honest, there hasn't been anything like Bridgeway Station before. It's new, not just new to Mauldin or new to Greenville County, but it's new to South Carolina. And there was a point, the developer Phil Hughes has, I've heard him say several times that he received a call from the city one day, and the representative on the other end said, "Mr. Hughes, just wanted to talk with you about zoning." And he said, as soon as the representative from the city said that, he said his head dropped. And he said, "Here we go. This is going to be the same red tape that we've had to go through." And the representative from the city said, "No, no, no, no. You don't understand. We want to know what it is that we can do to create this zoning to help you do what you want to do and build what you want to build for this new transformative development." And that was really an aha moment, not only for him, but I think the rest of city staff, that our idea of being business friendly shouldn't just be a catchphrase; it should be a mindset. And so we really worked with him on Bridgeway and Drew Parker for what we're currently calling the City Center Village as it begins to develop, and then as the Swamp Rabbit Trail comes down into Malden, and the East Butler Road improvement project that DOT is about to start, that both of those developments will connect with each other. They're not competing in any way, but they will be complementary, and it'll be another amenity for Malden.
Well, it's an from experience of frequenting some of those establishments. It's a cool little place. No doubt about it. I mean, you see people down there, you know, eating, hanging out, taking pictures. I know we went down for lunch at one of those places on prom night, and there were prom pictures being taken. So it is definitely something I know from my family standpoint that we appreciate, and are obviously looking forward to going down there much more and seeing the different things that are developed. So for me personally, I just want to thank you for all the work you put in on all of it, because it's outstanding.
Well, thank you,
Um,
Coach. I mean, it really is a team effort, and let me
right,
just remind you, that's actually just phase one. So that's just the
right, right.
beginning of that development.
Yeah, yeah.
There are more announcements on the horizon.
Anything you want to break here with us on episode 6 of Mav Chatter? Nothing.
There are more announcements on the horizon.
Awesome. Well, let's go back to Malden High School. I know in discussions, you and I, when I pretty much begged you, and I don't necessarily think I threatened your life, but got down on my knees to beg for your help in reinstating our booster club 4 years ago when I took over as the athletic director. We had discussions of Malden High being Malden's high school. Break that down a little bit to what that means to you, and I guess the vision of what Malden High School means to our community.
Mauldin High School is different from other high schools in the county because it really does sit in the middle of the community and really unites the community. And without a defined downtown in Mauldin, that the high school really has been the rallying point. So I've said for years, I said it when I campaigned, I said it before I campaigned. It's not just Mauldin High School, it's Mauldin's high school. You have other high schools across the county that pull from different subdivisions, different communities, and it's great, and I'm happy for all of those schools. But Mauldin High School is ours. It is the heartbeat of the community, and you know, looking at it from a recreation standpoint, to be able to have a bridge that goes from Mauldin Rec to Mauldin High, and for those kids to understand coaches, for those kids to understand, playing schemes and strategies, and I think it's just vitally important that we keep that back and forth communication going, keep that pipeline going, and obviously, when we reestablished the Booster Club, we went from having nothing in the account to businesses within the city and even at the edge of the city clamoring to be a part of this really special school and this really special athletic program. And our kids deserve the best, and I want to do whatever we can. And I don't have anything to do with the Booster Club anymore, but I want our kids at Mauldin High School to feel good about wearing that M, to feel good about wearing those horns, because it's a symbol of who they are, where they come from, and that they are representing this city and this school.
I think I think the 50th anniversary of our school, I think, came at a good time too. Getting our kids to understand how important it is, how important it means, and is how much as it means to a lot of the alumni, obviously, such as yourself. The one we had in the fall, different people that came back over the course of the year to athletic events, whether it's baseball or basketball, whatever it is. On a personal standpoint, from the baseball side of it, we recently took 2 nights to celebrate 50 years of Mauldin baseball, and trying to get our kids to understand how much um, alumni appreciate their time at the school, how much it meant to them. They met their wives. In Mauldin, they brought their kids back to go to different things, and it was just really a cool thing throughout the year to be able to welcome those folks back. And my mind's spinning already for next year moving on. Like, I think we need to, whether it's in the fall at a football game or every program, I think should really consider on specifying one particular night to bring the alumni back and have them out and get everybody back involved with their program. I was floored this past week of how many people came from Columbia and different parts of the state to spend time with one another, watching high school baseball. It was really, really cool. So,
Well,
um,
and honestly, I agree with you, because the programs aren't what they are today without the players from then.
correct,
And that could
correct,
be 50 years ago, 40 years ago, 30 years ago,
right,
or 2 years ago.
right.
Looking at what the lacrosse team has done this year, now they've won two playoff games,
Hmm.
and are really looking like a special team. And my son, who's now been gone for a couple of years, texted with Coach Hardrecourt the other day and just said, "I'm really pumped for you and what you've accomplished with this program." And he wrote back right away and said, "Thanks, but it wouldn't be what it is without you and the people who came before you." So I agree with you completely. It's incrementalism, it's stair steps, and you don't get there without the people that came before you.
Right, right. And his program is unique in itself, where a lot of his assistant coaches are alumni.
They
They're
are.
they're guys that have played, so that makes it even more special for those guys. And the current players to sit there and go, okay, this guy has a truly vested interest in me being successful, because at the end of the day, they want the lacrosse program to be successful too. So shout out to Coach Hardrecore. I don't know if it was episode 4 or 5, but had him on, and him and Bryce Robinson did a really good job. But all right, well, Tev, let's go to something that's not really associated with Mauldin High School, the city of Mauldin, something we've called the Stampede. Just some lightning round, random questions. I haven't prepped you on. Uh, your favorite binge-worthy TV show. What do you have?
Favorite binge-worthy TV show? It depends on the mood. If I want to be serious, I probably go West Wing. If I want to go mindless, Chuck from NBC. I think it's been off for about 10 years now, but an outstanding show.
Gotcha.
And then Friday
Okay.
Night Lights if we're just kind of hanging out.
Friday Night Lights. Okay. Um, the most influential person in your life.
My grandfather.
Why?
Um, he he would say things that some might just consider throwaway lines, but they always stuck with me. Like, "You ain't gonna start off as president of the bank, son," and I knew what that meant. It meant that, when I started my career, I wasn't going to be the top dog because we're entitled to nothing. We have to earn everything that we get, and so, things like that. He instilled my work ethic. He helped me understand how important it is to build relationships, those soft skills that I think are so difficult for people now. So I credit so much of that to my grandfather.
My grandfather had one, and it never really hit me until I got older. But it's nice to be important, but it's important to be nice.
Yep.
Um, and he was an immigrant from Hungary. Broken English, right, and just worked for National Fuel, manual labor, blue collar as it could be. Never missed a day of work in 40 years. But that was one of the most profound things, that he'd ever said to me. And we took it as a joke at times, being a kid. It's like, what, it's important, nice to be important, important. What are you talking about? And it's always lingered there in the back of my mind. So,
The wisdom that came out of that generation is something that I
mhm,
think we really ought to hold on
yeah,
more to. And another thing that my grandfather used to say to me was, "Make them think that they can't do without you, son." And that probably is the reason that I don't take vacations, is because I don't want my clients to know that there is life without me. I
yeah,
want them to think that I'm the linchpin that holds their organizations together.
right, right. Um, what are you currently reading, or a great book that you can recommend? And obviously, I'm asking you things, in your very little spare time that you probably do have.
So I'm currently reading Dan Brown's Origin, and it's one of those things that really for me is just more of a beach read. So I'm looking out. I'm looking forward to getting out on the beach, reading a couple of pages, and falling asleep.
Awesome. You could have dinner with any person in history. Who would it be and why?
Jesus Christ, because who wouldn't want to understand why the Son of God came to this earth?
Good one.
I think that there are a lot
Outstanding.
of things in the red letters in that book that have been um, misinterpreted, and I would like to ask, okay, what tell me why what I'm actually supposed to know here,
Break it down
please.
for us. Yeah. Good stuff. Awesome. Well, man, I appreciate you taking time on your Sunday to talk to me. This has been
Thanks for
awesome.
having me, man.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Mav Chatter, and a special thank you to Taft Matney. Our goal is to post content with student athletes, coaches, faculty, staff, and administration twice a month. So please subscribe. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and don't forget to subscribe to the Ranch newsletter by visiting mauldinathletics.com. You will receive an email each Sunday night or Monday morning updating you with game results, schedules, ticket information, and other great things going on inside Mavland. Again, thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And as always, go Mavs.